Hello, this is Duncan Nisbet, the roving reporter for Let's Test, here today with the delightful Adam Howard. Hi Adam, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, good. We finally get around to meeting up. It's difficult, isn't it, across the continents?
Yeah, the time zones make it very weird. It's odd thinking that you're about to start work and I finished ages ago and it's the middle of the night now.
Yeah, I know when I did a chat with with Dave Greeners, he was drinking scotch while I was in work. He was like, tough.
That's the way to do it. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Fantastic. Right. Okay. Well, that's enough about the past. Let's talk about you. So I was reading up on your site that you fell into testing after doing a literature degree. So what happened there? So when did you realise that you could apply the stuff you'd learned at uni to testing? Was it immediate, or was it as you started doing it?
Yeah, it was really when I started doing it. I think so. I kind of fell into it out of uni because I did a literature degree, and then realised how useless that was, and then kind of cast around for anything that I could do to earn a living, and
Right.
got very lucky. And so surety, who I work for, they run a grad program, and they're pretty open about who they take into it. So they were
Right.
open to arts graduates and pretty much gave me a shot, which was really nice. But yeah, as soon as I started actually doing testing, I realised that the way that you interpret requirements or people's expectations about stuff is kind of very similar to the way that there are multiple interpretations to a novel or to a poem or any kind of narrative text. So that was the initial thing that really kind of hit me about it, was my skills that I developed in reading different sides of stories and seeing different perspectives on things was useful. But I mean, since then I've thought about it quite a bit, and I guess I see like studying literature was kind of studying like humanity and society and stuff. Like it's people write about how they see the world and how they see other people and that sort of thing. So it's really studying ourselves as humans. And I think that has a real direct application to testing, because ultimately when we're looking at software is about the people who will use it and making life easier. And like obviously quality is like a relationship between the software and people. So understanding a bit about people and being able to kind of see different sides of how people will interact with stuff or rate stuff or value things is quite important. So.
Of course it is, yeah. Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head there. The software is about the people, isn't it? Not us writing it, it's about the people going to be using it.
Yeah, and I think that's what people miss. It's very easy to miss that because you can get so lost in the technical detail of it. And I think like as someone who came to testing from this weird sort of unexpected background, I feel like I bring that. That's a big part of my focus, my natural sort of inclination to how I approach stuff. So yeah.
Fantastic, yeah. And I guess you can draw on others, not just the literature, is it? Well, you can draw from other aspects of the discipline. So like how to be analytical as well. You can get that from the course.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, I think there's a whole bunch of kind of almost soft skills that you just pick up in probably any like line of study, a university degree or any sort of study where, just being able to pick something up and think critically about it and pull it apart and kind of see the components that make it up and how they might interact and that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's really deconstructing a text or a problem or a piece of software. There is a similar set of skills that all kind of run through those.
I mean, it's a really good example for those people who, like yourself, have done a degree and they don't know how to apply it. You can say, well, actually, software testing is a good avenue into the kind of IT world.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that, and it's quite interesting. Like, I'll occasionally run into people who I studied English Lit with, and they're now like doing another degree so they can go and get a job. They're like, what are you doing? I tell them I'm in IT, and they're like, what? How are you in IT? How did that even happen? Yeah, I agree. It is kind of a nice thing, and I try and explain to people that testing isn't a completely technical. I mean, technical in the traditional sense, I guess.
Of course,
discipline. So I feel very lucky to have stumbled into it.
Yeah, likewise. Fantastic. So you work for Surety Consulting. So you've been with them on their graduate program.
Yep.
Yeah, how's that been? How long have you been there now?
I've been there now 4 and a bit years.
Right.
So I did the grad program in January 2011, and I mean it's been amazing. I think I really I really enjoy working for surety. I think that there's a real emphasis on kind of developing people and challenging ideas. So we have a really good, strong group of people in the testing space at surety who I'm really lucky to work with. And the graduate program was great for me. It gave me kind of an in-depth introduction to kind of a traditional view of testing, but then I got out there and started actually doing testing, and I had some really kind of hairy projects right at the start, and it made me realize that actually just doing it by the book wasn't necessarily the way to go, and that there were other things that you could do to kind of get better at it. And then that led me to kind of like-minded people within the company who have helped me, and hopefully I've helped them in some ways since that time as well. So, yeah.
But yeah, I think that definitely that strong community you have at surety definitely radiates out beyond a surety. So I mean, so you're down in New Zealand. The noise that you guys make is kind of trickling away over to Europe, and it's amazing. It's just like, wow, how do you get part of this gang? But
yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I think Assurity definitely is strong. We've got some really good people, but I think the wider community in New Zealand and in Australia is really good, and I think there's a real kind of close knit feel to it. You mentioned David Greenlees before, and there's a bunch of other people who you just sort of they're on Twitter, they're at the end of Skype or an email or whatever, and it's it feels really good to have kind of a network of people doing similar stuff, and it does feel like you've got people have your back in taking stuff on. I think it's interesting. I think almost like I feel like Australia and New Zealand is kind of, there's an opportunity, because certainly in my experience, a lot of the way that testing is done is very old school and is very by the book, and there's a lot of room for improvement. But I think that also because it's like New Zealand especially is a relatively small place, it feels like there is an opportunity to achieve stuff. It's not like too massive a problem to take on. And I think that kind of gives people some real emphasis, and I think that's why there is such a strong noise coming out of here, is that actually cool stuff is happening and it's starting to change things, and that just increases that noise level, and we're more happy to talk about that stuff because it's going pretty well. So yeah.
I mean, that's it, isn't it? I mean, you could just be in your own little bubble doing your own thing and just pushing testing on, but I think the stuff you're doing is so important that it's good to get it radiated and for other people to see actually Australasia's got it going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a marvel of the modern world how easy it is to share that information and to see what's going on in the rest of the world, and to kind of share those ideas. And I think we've benefited from getting ideas from other people and from other parts of the world, and it's kind of only fair to give back to that, and we want to be part of that. So yeah, I think it's definitely, there's a nice global community building of which we're kind of a little part in, and there are many other cool parts which I'm looking forward to visiting at that stage as well.
Yeah, cool. So let's start moving towards that. So you talk a lot about agency in testing.
Yeah.
So I've seen a couple of your talks have agency in the title. Do you want to tell us a bit, like, what is agency? Obviously, without giving too many spoilers away for your presentation.
So like agency is kind of it's a sociological kind of concept, and it's the idea of kind of a person's ability to act or choose as they want to kind of control what it is they do, and the extent to which they're able to do that. So it kind of, agency is this idea of how free you are to actually act on your own intentions and desires and that sort of thing, or the extent to which it's limited. So there are often structures in place, and I think in almost everything we do, our agency is to some extent limited by social structures or kind of laws and that sort of stuff. So it's kind of a tricky, complicated idea, kind of like free will to kind of get your head around, but it's quite an important one to testing, I think.
So is it a case that people afford us a certain amount of agency, or do we make our own agency? I know you talked about the social constraints, so the whole kind of tell, don't ask, that kind of, I'm just going to do it and then beg for forgiveness. Is that the kind of realms of agency, or is it something we can control ourselves?
I think it's kind of a combination. I do think that we sort of buy into certain structures and that's useful because it prevents chaos from just reigning in the world and everything that we do. But I do think that it's there is kind of a choice and there is a conscious element to actually trying to maintain your own agency, and that's kind of what my talk that I did at Let's Test Oz was about, in trying to identify ways for testers especially to actually regain some agency, which I think is lost. So without going too far into it, I guess I see kind of the traditional scripted process-driven sort of world of testing as enforcing a bunch of structures on the way that people test. And I think that actually regaining some agency and breaking out of those structures is essential to doing good testing. So it was looking at some ways to actually try and do that, and to just enable people to first recognize that they might be constrained without realizing it, and then to try and take that agency back.
Interesting. So does some of those concepts tie into Back and Bolton's latest article, Exploratory Testing 3.0, about the scripts in your head and not just the scripts on Excel?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was great reading that. It's always nice to see something that I'm interested in pop up in such a important article, obviously. And because James was at Let's Test Oz, and so I caught up with him afterwards. And he was very kind to provide some feedback on my talk and the slides and stuff, and so that kind of hit me with some new ideas and stuff to build into this next one that I'm doing. But yeah, reading that, it was really cool, and I think they kind of really go hard on that, and agency being the crucial element which forms exploratory style testing is actually having self-direction, so the ability to self-direct what you're doing in your testing. So it definitely links in, and I was reading that the other week when they published it, thinking, I need to probably update my talk and sort of reference that a little bit in what I'm going to talk about. So yeah. Brilliant.
Okay, so moving on to Let's Test then. So you've got the session, Agents of Testing, Earning Your Empowerment. So you mentioned there you took some feedback from James after Let's Test Oz. What journey have you been on since then? So how's the session changed?
Well, I think it's still changing. At the moment, it's not done. But I think that what's really changed, so the talk that I did, Let's Test Oz, I kind of submitted it. The reason I submitted it was to make myself kind of focus on some of these ideas and stuff, because I find it's easy just to get stuck in the delivery, the day-to-day doing testing stuff. I wanted to give myself kind of some motivation to actually keep up with and contribute to like testing at a higher level. So in a sense, that talk, I was learning about the concepts that I was talking about. So I was learning about agency, and I was coming up with these ideas. Kind of, they were very fresh, and for me, it was figuring stuff out and then talking about it. There was a very academic kind of bent to it, almost like it was very focused on what is agency, and then specifically helping people understand that, and then looking at ways to regain it in a very kind of factual, direct sort of way. And I think that what's changed since then, most of all, is that I've kind of had longer to mull it over and to see how actually that has played out throughout my career. So in the 4 years that I've been doing testing, I kind of look back and recognize these moments where like I started off without agency, and then I've been able to kind of build it back up. And I think that experience, the story of that is actually quite powerful, and probably almost a better way to talk about it and to have people relate to it, because I think they're experiences which other people can relate to a bit more than just the straight up, this is what agency is and this is some stuff that you know about it. So kind of the evolution that I'm trying to work towards here is to actually tell my story and in kind of a sort of elaborate sort of way, because I studied literature. I kind of like telling stories, and I like weaving narrative. I kind of want to do it in some sort of almost theatrical sense if I can. But yeah, in a way that helps people to kind of relive the experiences which I've had, so they can learn from them in the same way that I did, I've learned from them without realizing it as I was going through, I guess. So Yeah, that's kind of the plan. Hopefully it will come off.
It'll come off, yeah. I agree with that. I mean, we're storytellers, aren't we, as human beings? And we kind of relate to stories more. And it's like the urban legend, isn't it? Those folklore, those tales from folklore that we believe so readily. Stick with us a lot more than just dry facts being rinsed out at us, like corporate mission statements.
Yeah, so, it's more engaging, it's more interesting, and yeah, you're right, it stays with you more if there is something, there's a personal element to it, and you can kind of, if there's a character in there that you relate to, or that it has a similar experience, it does just make it more real, as opposed to the facts and figures view. Yeah.
That's it, yeah. You're not just dry delivery. You can sit there and bounce off, and you could say, "Oh yeah, I've had something similar, but it was a little bit different because of this," and then that kind of spins off a different tale, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's it. It does. It starts conversations, and I found myself after doing the talk at Let's Test like afterwards, like having a drink that night at the bar, I was talking to people about it, and I found myself telling these stories, and that was kind of the first sort of realization that I had, that actually I could have done it in a different way, and I could have woven these stories into the talk, and it would have still been useful and maybe more useful. So, yeah.
Yeah, but you get that through learning, don't you? That's all
definitely.
about getting out and doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so when's your session on at Let's Test?
Oh, that's a good question. Should probably know. I think it's on the first day in the morning sometime, or the second day. The first, not the very first day, the middle day.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, you are on day 2, 9:30 in Folkets 4.
There you go. Good pronunciation.
Yeah, that's it. My Swedish is phenomenal. Fantastic. And then so you were Let's Test Oz. How was that? So I couldn't make it. I had grand plans to make it, and then I never did, unfortunately. How was it?
Oh, it was great. It was really good. I think that we watch on in envy a little bit from this side of the world at all the great stuff that happens at Let's Test and then at Cast and all these really cool conferences and stuff. So it was nice to actually have one for ourselves over this side of the world, and lots of people made it over, which was really great. So it was good because it was a real chance to kind of get the community together that exists in Australia and New Zealand, and then add kind of an international flavour to it as well. So yeah, for me it was just really nice to kind of meet a bunch of people that I've corresponded with or read online for a while now, and actually get to meet them in person and have proper chats and conversations about it. And I think that's probably the defining feature of it, was that less so sometimes the workshops and more what happened around the workshops, and just chatting to people over a drink or over a coffee or over breakfast is sometimes more valuable than what you get from the themselves. Like, you just get to really dig into it a bit. So yeah, that's what's really cool. Yeah.
And it was quite a remote venue, wasn't it? The venue was amazing.
A little place called Leura, kind of an hour or so outside of Sydney. So really spectacular place out there. There's the Three Sisters, kind of a rock formation, which was the main local attraction. But the whole place is just very, very Australian, very remote, bushy sort of feel. It was really nice. You did feel like you were just kind of away from everything and just ensconced in this conference for a few days, which was exhausting but amazing.
That's it, a lot to take away.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they're kind of carrying on that format of actually keeping the venue quite remote, so that everyone is together and can just confer for the whole time, which is what I really like about Let's Test in Sweden. It's just because you're just out on the archipelago. It's just really nice and relaxing. So have people been giving you a heads up of what to expect in Sweden or not?
Not directly, but I've read tons of blogs and followed the last couple on Twitter and stuff. So I kind of have an idea of what to expect, and chatting to some of the guys who are at Let's Test Oz, who've been to the original. I think it's going to be cool. I'm just really excited to kind of hit Sweden itself. I've never been to Sweden before, so that's cool, and just getting amongst it. So it should be really good.
Excellent. How long are you over for?
A while actually. So I'm flying from New Zealand to Stockholm, and then got a couple of days there before the conference, and then I'm actually talking at Nordic Testing Days as well in Estonia, like 10 days or so afterwards. So and then after that, I've got like a month and a half of holiday, so I'm just going to travel around Europe and visit family in the UK and stuff. So it's super exciting, both the conferences and then getting to have a holiday afterwards. So lots of planning for both of those things to do at the moment.
Oh, brilliant! That sounds amazing. Not jealous. Yeah, it's fantastic. So, so that's all I would ask you. Is there anything you want to talk about before we wrap up?
I think that we've probably kind of covered most of the stuff that I'd noted down to talk about. Yeah, I think I'm just super keen to get there and get into it now and get it done. I think. Yeah. I would do a quick little plug. So anyone who happens to watch this, I am involved in creating Testing Trapeze, which is an Australasian testing magazine which we produce kind of over here. And I encourage everyone to get out and read it because we have some amazing articles coming up and in our previous issues as well. So
you do indeed. We'll add a link to that on the YouTube video.
Oh, brilliant! Thanks.
So people can get to it. So we'll link to some stuff on agency as well.
Yeah. Cool.
People can dig deeper. Okay, well I'm going to wrap it up there, and I'm going to let you get to bed, and I best get back to work.
Yeah. Have fun with
it. Last day, so it's all exciting. But I want to thank you again for your time, Adam. I really appreciate it.
Oh, pleasure. Great.
And I'll catch you in Sweden.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Cheers, Adam. Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye.